For your convenience, I made a template of a learning strategy that you might want to use in your own classroom. Used often as an exit path, students might complete a four-corner journal note during a lecture or after a lecture, while reading a passage or book, or watching a video. This semester, we will be highlighting evidence-based practices and high-leverage practices that we know are effective for our students. Four-corner notes is one such learning strategy. While this short PowerPoint doesn't begin to tell you everything that a special ed teacher needs to know, this is definitely important information that you are expected to know. As we all come from different experiences and backgrounds, I want to be sure that you understand the concepts of inclusion, cross-categorical, least restrictive environment, and disproportionality in special education. While you're watching this lecture and this video, be sure and take notes yourself in this format of what I learned, aha or wow moments, what I want to remember, and what I wonder or still want to know. You will then be meeting and your PLC team to share your four corners notes and collectively making one four corners notes for our class collaboration. First, what does cross-categorical mean? Cross-cat stands for teaching students with exceptionalities in cross-categorical settings. To understand what it is, it helps to know a little bit of the history of special education. Prior to the 70s, all children with disabilities were segregated and bused to special schools in the state residential or day school setting. Remember the movie Forrest Gump? He was tested to have an IQ of 75, which is the mild to moderate range, and bused to the state school for mentally retarded. Like his mom, many parents refused and kept their children home. After the Civil Rights Act in 1964 was passed, parents and advocates for those with intellectual disabilities campaigned for educational reform, applying the standard of Brown versus the Board of Topeka against racial segregation as the ground for equal education for children of all ability. And how did this affect teacher certification? Well, in the beginning, teachers were certified in one certification. Back then, it was called mental retardation. Now it's called intellectual disability. Or they were certified in behavior disorders, which is now called emotional disturbances. Or they may have been certified in learning disabilities. That meant that our students were in classes based on their disability, and a teacher could only teach the student that they had that specific teaching certification for. There were classes for students with learning disabilities who had a teacher certified with learning disabilities. An LD teacher could not teach a class of students with intellectual disabilities. As is now, there has been a critical shortage of teachers certified in special education. To meet this shortage, the Cross-Cat Classroom was born, leading to the State Department certification of mild to moderate disability. It wasn't until 1996 that Missouri State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education began awarding certification for teachers to teach all children with mild to moderate disability. This is what you will be getting from Lindenwood. Now with this certification, you can teach in any cross-categorical setting. After obtaining the mild to moderate certificate, you are qualified to teach in a gen ed classroom as a co-teacher with the gen ed teacher, or as a resource support services teacher, teaching small groups of students who are pulled out, coming to your classroom, or you may go into a gen ed classroom and work with a small group of students. You're also qualified to teach an essential skills, also called life skills or self-contained classroom, where the special ed teacher teaches the same class for over 3 hours or more. What does inclusion mean? As you know, the definition is widely interpreted. When the inclusion movement surfaced in 1990, most students received special education in pull-out settings. The special ed teacher pulled out small groups of students and worked with them in the special ed room. This level of service today is called resource support and still exists. For some children, this service may be viewed as their least restrictive environment. These students were documented in their IEPs and still are to need small group instruction. This statement means resource support. In the 1990s and later, a new definition arose for inclusion. The definition exemplified that special ed is a service, not a place. It was defined as every child remaining in their neighborhood school in their age-appropriate classroom to the maximum extent possible. This is LRE, least restrictive environment. Support services such as physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech and language therapy should be given in the regular ed classroom called integrating services. This is frequently done in early childhood special ed classrooms. At the K-12 level, having a special ed teacher or related services professional, such as the SLP, speech and language path, go to the gen ed classroom is called pushing in. The specialist may work with one group of students, the whole class, or even a small group in a regular ed classroom. This brings us to the importance of the least restrictive environment. If a parent asks you, what is your philosophy of inclusion? Or how do we determine placement of a child? The immediate and short answer is the least restrictive environment, LRE. Every child is unique. During the eligibility determination meeting, also called child find or the evaluation meeting, a child is first found to meet the guidelines of a specific disability as defined by IDEA. After the disability is determined, then services and placement are discussed. Here is a list of the placements from the LRE model. As you may know, there is more variance within children that have the same diagnosis than there is the entire school population. For example, think of children you may have worked with who've been diagnosed with autism. Are they more alike or different? Most likely, there is no one way to describe them with the same words. We cannot equate a disability with the type of classroom or where they should be placed. Again, special education is a service, not a room, not a place. Equally important for all of us to be aware are the concepts of equity and equality in education. Equality means giving everyone the same resources tools, technology, instruction. Equity means giving everyone what they need. Please watch these 2 videos in their entirety to see what the problem is and what we can do today in our classroom to address this problem. While watching this, be sure that you're taking your 4 corners notes, what I learned, aha, or wow moments, what I want to remember, what I still want to know. Then, with your PLC chair, through collaboration, share what your notes are. As a group, a team, you and your team will agree and then post in the collaboration in Canvas sidebar on the class file with the other 2 PLC teams. Have fun in your groups.